All right, welcome back. Or should I say, konnichiwa, MAKU desu, right? At least I could do that. So today is day 2. Let's recap day 1. Try to do it off memory. So day 1, we went over opening opinions, talked about my inspirations and opinions regarding Louis Van TED Talk, talking about his founding program here, Duolingo. Make some remarks about my personal history, my exposure to 2 or 3 different languages outside of English, and personal methodologies, and then design cues and things regarding mobile app design that are appropriate for, I guess, the modern learning community, right? And yesterday I was incredibly floored by some of the elements that I didn't think would make it into Duolingo. Duolingo has been around for quite some time, so it really does show. Some of the impressive things that stuck out to me was incorporating many different speakers. So different speaker tones, different speaker speeds. Actually, there was some variation in the way the speed of very audio cues, and even some of the exercises had a slower version, right? That's absolutely excellent. I mean, I hope they continue to build on that and extend and expand different pitch and tone, not in the sense of tonal language, as in I'll probably find out a little bit more when we switch to Mandarin or something, where the tonal tones could be too different that it could lead to a different word, right? In more increasingly tonal languages. However, I'm talking about more about the natural timbre of the speaker. Because generally speaking, back in the old days, right, when you do textbook stuff, you generally have a singular or maybe 2 individuals, and you only hear that individual. Like when I was learning Spanish, the textbook stuff, it tends to be only one speaker, or generally a really selective group. And when you get so ear trained to that specific person or that specific group, it becomes very difficult when you start hearing other people's different cadences and whatnot. But I hope to continue hearing different voices. I think that was incredibly impressive, especially when it just bounces between exercises and whatnot. I love that they did all the standard stuff is pretty great, where they reverse roll, do the different combinations, like English to Japanese, then reverse, then characters, constantly doing that. Because one of my things that I'm afraid that they formal education tend to do, in my opinion, or like old school stuff, is to compartmentalize learning from previous learning. So what I mean by that is they remove the dependency, view it as a crutch to rely on something you know to associate with something you're trying to learn. So in this case, Duolingo strikes me as something that is fully embracing that idea that if you have a primary language, we want to create as many associations as possible. So constantly there's like an beyond image, right? Imagery can be universal. So there are some of that, where there was a picture of, let's just review the 4 food words that we learned yesterday. Mitsu, which is water. Sushi, you know, the sushi rolls, right? And then gohan, right, rice, and then ocha, green tea. So there were a few images, but generally they also stacked the Japanese words, the English words, even the phonetics, like romaji, and the English way of writing the stuff. So like the English phonetical, not necessarily just romaji, right? There, that's fantastic. And another impressive thing was how they did mistakes. So I did make a mistake yesterday, which is a great way to tell that my focus is waning, because when you start speeding up, you start becoming complacent, I generally try to stay in the same cadence. Not too fast, not too slow, steady speed. If you're going too fast, you'll rush, and then you'll become complacent. So you'll start developing a habit of skipping over things. Generally, when you're learning something new, you want to stay exactly at a steady pace within like a group. So I did start speeding up, and I made a mistake yesterday. It was around the 1 hour period. I generally start rushing and becoming a little too lax after 1 hour. So we'll keep it maybe around 1 hour and see what happens. I think as we go on, I'll probably move to the point I make a mistake unless time doesn't permit. So we'll put a cap on it, like 2 hours or something. Try to be realistic and do not burn out, right? We're trying to prevent burning out. There doesn't seem like there's a safeguard in Duolingo for burning out, where the only feedback you have right now is your hearts, right? And that can be completely circumvented with the super premium subscription, which I like to believe when we try the super premium, the super Duolingo, that there would be an indicator when your frequency of mistakes go up. Generally speaking, is very healthy for something or someone, typically it's someone in a learning environment, to point out that perhaps it's time to take a break. Your frequency of error has gone up, like dramatically. And that is absolutely very natural. So not to associate it with a negative feedback. When someone continues to push themselves past a point when they don't naturally have built endurance for it, it's often more optimistic and encourageable to rest. When you do this, your endurance will naturally go up to a point that will be sufficient for you to go as long as you want. The idea is you're not burning out. So if you go too hard when you start something, generally when you start something, that burnout is paralleled by pretty much any skill you would pick up, because once you cross that barrier, the barrier of entry dips really hard, so you require less energy. It just keeps going up, right? So when you're going up, being overzealous when you start a task that involves even physical tasks like working at the gym and stuff, when you go too hard and burn out, usually those people do not return. It's very incredibly difficult to be consistent in the beginning if you're letting yourself just go ham. Over time, you are supposed to steadily pull in to consistency. So I did cut myself off yesterday. I would say safely I might have been able to go for 6 or 7 hours, but I intentionally and intently decided how long I was going to go based on my previous experiences. So that's kind of a discipline that I would say it's a bit of a nuanced thing. And Duolingo did a great job, in my opinion, on doing that, where they start off small. So there's slightly less incentives, slightly less tasks, and it looks like it expands as you're going. It's not brutally aggressive or indirect at pushing the person to stop playing or stop learning. And that's still kind of nice. I think it's a great middle ground. It's making the presumption, though, that the average user wouldn't try to go as hard as possible in the beginning. And that can kind of cut back on their bottom line on encouraging people to subscribe, right? To subscribe. Because immediately in the beginning, if it's incredibly effective, as a business model, you want your app, your product to be incredibly attractive on first impression. Now here's the double edge of this. If this is an educational product, making it incredibly attractive at first often can lead to a fallout very quickly within 1 week or so, because the learning process is often, it suffers from being overzealous in the beginning. This isn't like a video game, for example, and I understand that the whole point, or one of the design philosophy, is to capture that design that the social media industry, the entertainment industry has exploited, more or less, to increase that impact. But their products have a lifespan outside of like social media and whatnot. But like, say, video games, a lot of the video games have a lifespan, so they take on that forward investment right away. Meanwhile, Duolingo, I feel like it's something for life. Like, it's a live service, so it's more where the gaming industry is working on now, which is the live service thing. How to mitigate FOMO, right, to an extent, so that the person doesn't naturally develop a non-sustainable escalating addiction or investment into a video game, in order for them to more consistently play daily, right? Daily, however, making it sustainable, as opposed to it just keeps going up until it's not sustainable, and generally the person will break and cold turkey or just remove themselves from the thing. So I really do like that, that there is some restraint and discipline in this. So let's review. We got a chance to learn those 4 food items we already mentioned: mitsu, sushi, gohan, and ocha, right? And then the please at the end, so kurosai, and knowing how to say what it is, so like mitsu desu, right? It's water. We also had an opportunity to learn some characters, the hiragana, so a, I, u, ka, ko, sa, shi, su, right? So I hope I remember some of the characters. We'll see. So we're just gonna resume now. Just some of my reviews on yesterday. I do this every day. Every time I do something, I always review the previous day, right? It's kind of an exercise, a mental exercise, not just simply, now we can look at the guidebook, and there are review materials on here, which is great for those who do not do the process themselves. Naturally, I would love to see, this is where I think there is a little bit of wiggle room here. I would love to see some sort of way to emphasize, hey, try reviewing on your own, or something like that, where maybe there's a pop-up on it, so it's like, hey, before you go to the guidebook, where give you some things, like, at least this is what I see when I came back, which maybe after a week there'll be some evidence, but for now there's nothing really pointing me to saying, hey, you want to try thinking what you learned yesterday. Because as much as this is helpful, when you have an app that's doing all that stuff, most people, when they're learning, they learn mechanically. Like I said, a big topic point from yesterday is that when you start relying on something mechanically, you also don't learn what that tool is doing for you. So when you go on to a new task, like a new skill that this tool does not cover, you do not develop any of the skills that this tool is providing. So like the layouts, the guidebooks, organizing information and whatnot. Certainly, if Duolingo does everything for you, you could rely on it per se, but at the same time, if an educational product doesn't point out what it's doing for you, you're not necessarily learning anything. You're learning the topic that the tool is offering, but not how to approach the topic yourself. So you're not learning the process of learning. You're mechanically rehearsing something that gives you contextual knowledge. Like, semantic knowledge. So the idea is lots of times modern educational like design fails where formal educational, like traditional educational design still is strong. And the idea is to marry both of them. Formal traditional education is not engaging. It is rarely engaging, but it relies solely on the sink and swim principle, where you throw the person into like all the stuff, expect the person by trial and error to intuitively design, organize the information themselves, trial and error their own approach to how to study, take notes, and like that stuff is in Duolingo now. Modern design gives you a schematic and organize all these things, but it removes the need to do it yourself. So the idea now moving forward, when we're trying to get people to learn better, at least in my opinion, to get the best of both worlds, is to have that and also pull attention like, hey, what would you study for tomorrow? Or these are some of the key words you should focus on when you turn Duolingo off. Like, for example, at the end of a session, before you click off or something, a pop-up comes up. These are the things you've learned. And then it would be like just a smattering of all the things you accomplished. And the idea is to encourage the person to think about those things without the aid of Duolingo. It might sound like that would push people away from Duolingo, but what happens is it associates those things with your product. And when they remember that product manually, like analog themselves, they will think of your product. And that's my 2 cents. If I was gonna add more to what I only did for one day, right? And now we're gonna start day 2 and see if anything else changed from my experience from yesterday. Okay. And also, I can't read that. Sorry. Let's see here. All right. New lesson. Does it always show a tip in the beginning? A teacher, the teacher. Oh, it's a different tip from yesterday. Japanese does not have words like a or the, yeah, so they don't have articles, right? For example, the word sensei can mean both teacher and a teacher. Fair enough. It actually kind of simplifies things without needing articles. She's a teacher, so you've seen that des means it's, right? The desu. The same word can also mean she's or he's, like she is or he is. Desu means it's. Okay, so also no, those are pronouns. Interesting. And then sensei des, right? He or she is a teacher, right? So we're going on professions. Which one of these is teacher? So here's the pictorial thing, right, from yesterday. So let's just go in. I'll talk about the stuff a little bit after. Right? So say and say. Oh yeah, I forgot the N. That N syllable took me by surprise. That sound, I didn't think the N sound was a separate, but say and say E. So sensei.
Sensei.
Sensei. Sensei. Interesting. The E is incredibly light.
Sensei.
Sensei. Okay. I'm gonna end up exaggerating all of these things just to keep all the hiragana in mind, and so I can like separate the hiragana when I'm seeing this.
Sensei.
Sensei, right? Huh. I often don't. Funny enough, my history with relating these two words, the first word I would look for isn't particularly teacher, and that's largely lending to English being ones with lots of synonyms, right? Doctor. Isha? Isha.
医者
Isha. Okay, Isha.
医者
Okay. Isha. Sen in se i. Yeah. Sen in se i. Oops. Oh, that's kind of funny.
せせい
Oh, I'm gonna have to remember that. So, they particularly wanted a specific syllable first, even though it's sound, even though it's the same sound. All right, fair enough. So we kind of sort of have to pay attention to the pictorial puzzles. I don't know how I feel about that one. Obviously, that's just a redundancy possible problem. Okay. Sensei.
先生
先生です。
Sensei this. He's a teacher. Curious why they chose and I guess it doesn't mean he's the teacher. I feel like you could also put in the, but they chose a teacher. Unless that comes later. Isha.
医者
Isha.
優しいです
Yasashi desu. Yasashi desu. He's Yasashi is nice. Oh, wait. He's nice? Oh, that's kind of cute. Yasashi desu? He's nice. Hey, fictitious. No, I know fictitious, but that's not the point. You weren't here for the beginning. It says, it already tells you it's or the, but they didn't put both or the because there's no context, but they chose regardless. So I know it's contextual, but in that prompt, there's no context. So it should have both and the. That's the whole point. So yes, it is contextual. It can be either. So it should be in there. That's the idea. It starts with telling you that there's no or it could be or the. That's the whole point. Sensei.
先生
Sensei. The E is way lighter than I thought.
医者です
Isha desu. So Isha desu.
優しい先生。
Yasashi sensei. Nice teacher. Oh, wait. Oh no. It's a nice teacher. So that one is also implied. He's nice. I rushed that one. He's nice. Let's see. Yasashi
優しいで
desu.
す
Yasashi.
優しい
Ocha.
お茶
Sensei.
先生
Sensei. Hmm. Hmm. We'll see how often that occurs. The light E. Okay.
医
Isha
者
and Kohan.
優しい医者
Yasashi Isa.
Yasashi
Isha. Isha
医師
desu.
です
Isashi.
優しい
Yasashi. Oops. I'm thinking I just combined two.
お
Ocha.
茶
Kudasai.
ください
Sensei.
先生
And Isha.
優しい
And
先
then they
生。
review our previous mistake. So, Yasashi.
優しい、優しい。優しい、
So, it's all four. Yasashi.
先生。
Okay. Right. Again, I still think and the should be there. Either the nice teacher or a nice teacher, in my opinion. But perhaps it's always understood that is a default. Who knows? I'll find out later. Perhaps. Tap here for overview of your course now. Now your paths show only one section at a time. I see. Oh. Okay. Okay. Scribe people, alright. Lawyer. Try this. Negotiate? Negotiate. Negotiate. Negotiate.
弁護士
Bangoshi. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the I don't know, it's just me that I hear it as an English speaker, but there is emphasis, even though I think classically most people say that you're supposed to stress you're supposed to say as consistent as possible through the syllables, but for me the subtlety is bangoshi.
弁護士
Yeah, bangoshi. Bangoshi. Bangoshi.
弁護士
Bangoshi. Okay. Which is lawyer. I have to remember to say the English word. Yesterday I was saying the Japanese word when I'm looking for an English word. I need to get used to saying my responses that are appropriate for the association, not relying heavily on one or the other. So a lawyer and a doctor. It's always implied because of article. So bengoshi to
と
set isha
医者弁護士です
bengoshi desu. She's a lawyer.
弁護士と先生
Bengoshi wait. Bengoshi do what was the
弁
last?
護士と先生
Bengoshi
弁
do
護士
sensei.
先生
Bengoshi.
ごし、
かっこいい先生
Kakoi sensei. Ooh. Oh, that's how you separate it. Ka, and then we know ko, and then you can add a k.
かっこい
Kakoi.
いかっこいい
And then it's just
かっこいい
interesting. Curious if there's a word.
かっこいい
Curious if there's a kakoi versus a kakoi. Huh.
かっこいい
Which I'm familiar with. Obviously, the word for cool.
かっこいい
Maybe. Yeah.
か
Oh, that's
かっこい
interesting.
い
Attractive, good looking. As opposed to like cool. The synonym for cools would be like impressive, right? Instead of that angle where you go off to like impressive, impressionable, memorable kind of thing. So it's cool, attractive, good looking. Kakoi. So a cool teacher.
かっこいい医者
Kakoi isha.
かっこいい医者
Isha. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Isha,
医者
sensei,
先生
sensei. Man, that e is pretty much like non-existent. So sushi,
寿司
and bengoshi,
弁護士
and then nice is yasashi. Yasashi. And while I'm staring at this, I'm actually only looking at the left column. I'm not actually looking at the right column for the pair matching thing.
かっこいいです
Kakoi desu. She's cool. Kakoi.
い
Man, now I'm curious if kako, just kakoi, as instead of kako right? Like it's spelled this way. I'm curious what word that is. If there is a word kakoi, as instead of kakoi. I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm just holding it slightly longer to differentiate between the two. A nice lawyer. That's bengochi. 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 So a nice lawyer. Yasashi
優しい弁護
bengoshi.
士
Right. Lawyer. Bengochi.
弁護士
Bengochi.
先生と弁護士
Sensei to bengochi. A teacher and a lawyer? I'm thinking to myself, if I was writing this like compound like list, right? A compound list. Would I write a teacher and a lawyer? Or would I write a teacher and lawyer? Huh. But this, I mean, we know this is what this is, but Isha,
医者
Bengoshi,
弁護士
Kakui,
かっこいい
Kakoi. Yeah, I had no idea there was two E's there, so it's kakoi as a instead of kakoi. Kakoi. Yasashi.
優しい
Or is it yasashi? Yeah, yasashi. Right. And then kudasai.
かっこいいです。
Hey, Turnus. Kakoi desu. She's cool. She's a lawyer. So bengoshi desu.
です。
Lawyer. Bengoshi.
弁護士
Isha
医者、
sensei.
先生
Sensei. Gohan
ご飯、
and kakoi. Hooray! More XP. We're going to do this for a week before we do super. You can hi Romaji, I'm aware of that. Duolingo says that. Highly recommend if you're learning hiragana. I disagree, but fair enough. And kakoi is a combination of kako, appearance, and i. That's fair enough. But I absolutely disagree with you on how people learn. If you don't form associations, you're leaving things on the table. So I disagree with you. But do what you like, of course. Whatever works for you. The more associations you form, the more likely you'll remember the things. Okay. Isha.
医者
Yasashi.
優しい、
So we actually know 3 of these characters. Sa, shi, i. We haven't touched ya yet. Misu.
水、
Misu. Benkoshi.
弁護士
And sensei. Which one is student? Oh, interesting. Gakusei. Gakusei.
学生、
Oh yeah, I forgot. Drop the U, right? Like because of the oh man, this is Gakusei.
学生、
Gatsei. Yeah. Man, this is a very soft U. It's kind of like a what was the word that comes up all the time? U's aren't necessarily silent. It sounds silent. I disagree as well. Kind of like yaksa. Like yaksa, I still hear the U. It's implied. So I don't think it's a silent U. It's kind of like Gohan, where the N. Yes, I know. Like sushi, right? So, bear in mind that everything you say is gonna be different from me. So, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's not silent to me. I still know where it is, right? Like, what you're hearing doesn't mean I'm interpreting it the same way. With Romaji, I found myself focusing more on that and never... Well, that's your problem, right? So if you don't want to focus on it, you can disable Romaji. That's great. Fair enough. You find it easier to associate sound with each kana? That's fair. That's appropriate when you reduce Romaji. I want to do both. So I actually want to be able to write Romaji to someone because I want to teach it, and also the kana. So I want to do both. So generally speaking, I see those three as separate elements. In anime, it sounds like des, unless it's a character. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Then oh, you mean desu? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So those things are all situational. So you've listed lots of situational stuff. And that's cool if you think the U is silent. It's not, the U is not silent to me. Like Yakuza, it's not. And Des, it's not. The U is still there. Like in my mind and my oral thing, it's still there. Otherwise, I would spell it incorrectly. Or I would use a different romaji or a kana. Right? Because like, there's no S. Like, at least I don't think there's a hiragana for just the S sound. Maybe there's one for, what was the other one? Kitakata? Or the thing that where they substitute for others. So it's still there for me. Yeah. It is helpful if you only want to know the kana, for sure. I actually also want to know the romaji because it's important. Yes, I'm aware because, you know, Duolingo says that that's for borrowed words or cognates. Duolingo is doing a very good job of saying everything you have said so far. Saying that you don't need, I'm guessing when you're learning Japanese, you don't think you need romaji. Well, here's a thing. While you're typing your characters and going back and forth, not all platforms allow you to do that. So, and you're typically in situations where you can use romaji or kana. If you keep assuming that you can use both, then that's fine too, or you only want to exclusively use one. But I want to use all of them. So instead of removing something out of convenience, I want to develop the skills to do all of them. So disabling romaji would be disadvantageous for my own purpose. Gakusei.
学生
Gakusei. Man, sei right here is different. Slightly different.
学生
I just have to remember that for now. I wonder what other parts come up with this whole in e next to an e becomes a softer e. Gakusei.
学生です。
Gakusei desu. She's a student. A teacher and a student. Sensei to gakusei.
先生と学生
Oh, interesting. This person's this person has a different, even more noticeable variant of this. Okay, I just wanted you to be aware of the features. Yep, and I'm aware of the features. Often I come into Duolingo and someone far into section 1 or even section 2 and still can't read. Well, I certainly can't read that. And it's a result of exclusively relying on romaji on sound. That is presumptuous, but also very probably statistically accurate. And you made an assumption, so it's kind of actually the problem with you. So you are not a teacher, in my opinion. You are a student that maybe excels at something. That would be incredibly presumptuous. So I would not make that presumption. And Just because you have problems doesn't mean everyone else has the same problem. And also, even though you observed it, it only confirms the frequency. So before you make that assumption, you would be open to criticism too, right? So as long as you understand I don't have those problems, there's mutual respect. I get the idea why you go into other people and feel like they represent a large group, because you're probably correct. The highest frequency is that people rely on the thing that's most intuitive and has the closest bridge in connection. When your goal, if your goal is to understand kana and the Japanese, that's fine. Have you asked the person if they were satisfied with being understanding Japanese and Romaji, the association between those two only? You didn't ask that. You assume that the desired effect is to read hiragana and hear the sounds. So you remove the choice for that person. You never asked if they wanted to read that or not. If they say they're having trouble reading it, then certainly that's a desirable effect. You can advise them to remove Romaji, and maybe that will enforce the relationship between the kana and the sounds. And then constantly using examples and phrase I can't read, that's fine. Like, I can't read them, so that's perfectly fine. Like, I can't read them yet. I haven't actually done the kana exercise for those syllables. So at the moment, I just started this thing. Right. So, just to clarify, all the stuff that you're saying is a projection of what you desire, and then you're offering advice based on what you think is best. That's often not from a learning perspective. You do not encourage people by telling them to learn the way you learn. And it's very appropriate because we're talking about a teacher and a student. So naturally, if you tell someone to turn on Romaji, does that actually result in them not relying on, like, does that help them learn kana? There is a chance they actually learn even less kana with the sound because they spend more time struggling. So there's a lot of different effects. What you learn best is advice, and that's fair. Like, but I'm gonna keep Romaji on, and if I can't read Romaji by section 2, I will know that you might have a point. Does it matter to my goal? Probably not, because I like to just learn Japanese. Projection of objectives. So, 優しい人。Person, people, door. Oh, that's interesting. That context, huh? So, 人 person, people. So, cool people. 優しい人。優しい人。Okay. So what kind of things would you find helpful from you? Why do you have to be helpful? Is there a reason why you have to be helpful? Is your goal to be helpful to other people? Well, I mean, it is. I find it very respectful that you asked. That is one of them. I see. So, it is very nice that you asked for the, right? And I would say at the moment, I do not need any help. So at the moment, perhaps if you find someone else who you could help and they're openly asking for help, that's fine too. Otherwise, you can do this with me, but not offer help or something. I don't know. Be entertained at how I struggle with kana and how I rely on Romaji or something like that, right? Or a lot of people tend to observe how other people learn, and then it becomes very helpful because then you actually know if people have that problem. You can provide me information on grammar, pronunciation, interesting words, etc. If I want, that's fair. I'll pass. I don't really need that, right? It's like if you ask me what are interesting English words, because I can certainly improve your English too, but I'm not offering that, nor do I insist on that you would want to improve the expressiveness of your English, right? So I thank you for the offer, and I think it's kind of nice. What I want to say is it's kind of nice that you want to help people online. Right now I'm reviewing Duolingo, so as a product that I want to use to learn Japanese or learn some Japanese in an interactive way. I don't learn things with a goal in mind, so I'm not looking for a mastery of grammar, pronunciation, or interesting words. I'm looking to have a nice experience with doing something that involves the Japanese language. That's about it. So I don't really need any help. Actually, most people tend to possibly want help but not need help unless they ask, right? It's nice though. It's is this how you improve Japanese, by the way? Helping other people with a language kind of promotes a lot of intuitive learning about how to teach it. I see. Yeah, I'm using Duolingo for the purpose of evaluating Duolingo as a learning tool, as opposed to me specifically trying to master Japanese. In fact, I would say people who have a goal of mastering something at a high level tend to be very deficient at teaching it. You've used Duolingo before, but I didn't really enjoy it. Okay, that's fine. So I stopped using after section 3 unit 7. Fair enough. So now you go around looking at other people use Duolingo for the purpose of helping them. So here's the thing. If you're giving advice on something that you used but didn't enjoy and you stop using it, that is incredibly inappropriate to be giving people advice on a tool you no longer keep up to date, in my opinion. So strictly speaking, if you are a professional teacher or something like that, or you strive to teach someone, much like the Japanese language, it requires context. So the context is that when you watch other people use a tool that you yourself do not use anymore, one has to see and observe what the tool is offering now, right? For me, watching other people learning with Duolingo has been more fun than me using it myself. That's fair. That's like watching people play video games, right? To be fair, I stopped using Duolingo last month. That's exactly my point. So with that said, it is really fun watching other people do things. Like, for example, I play video games a lot, but I prefer to watch other people learn how to play FromSoft games like Dark Souls and stuff. and for me to observe their patterns, right? Because I like the process of learning. However, when things are contextually bound, like for example, I cannot explain or talk about how they should approach said boss if I do not have practical on-hand tools. Like I didn't actually use those tools. So when the stuff that you described to me about Romaji and the features of Duolingo, surprisingly or not, Duolingo has competently expressed all those features within like the first hour of using Duolingo. So since you don't use Duolingo anymore, you don't know that anymore. You're so removed and distant from it. It's kind of like a teacher teaching biology but has no hands-on experience with biological literature. The learning process is separate for sure. Like, for example, you could describe to me, hey, if you wanted to associate just kana with the sound, you can remove romaji. When? It was right in the beginning. I can't show you now, but they tell you about, right in the beginning, they tell you about the two types, right? The two types. And then they point you to that setting, and then the setting shows all three, or it shows the two. I made a comment about it. It's like, oh, hey, there's a third one. They didn't mention the third one though, which was the kanji, but you can see it. And also, as a person who actually explores applications, you do look in settings a lot. For example, if you watch a video gamer, a gamer who plays a lot, who relies on feature sets, like they go from game to game, the first place they would go to is the settings, especially for modern users of apps. And it's in that. We're not going to show it now, but oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. So right here. Or at least it pointed me here before. Which means though, here's the thing. Your ideas might be something that the people who made Duolingo caught on to, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Like we should maybe encourage stuff. So I actually agree with you when someone finds that they are heavily reliant on Romaji and want to learn Kana, they should turn off Romaji. I actually agree with you with that. In this case, a Duolingo could implement something like, oh, it seems like you're having problems with associating Kana with the sounds. Perhaps you would consider turning off Romaji in order to help with that. So those type of criticisms are great. Like, it would be a good idea if that was their goal. I am already very used to seeing Romaji. They changed the application quite often in the time I've been using it. They've changed the layout, the main page 3 times or so within the month. Wow. Or yeah, that's crazy. I that's great. I like that they're doing it. My favorite part about the application that I was floored is the idea that they use different speakers. Like within the last year, I see. All right, so let's keep going here. So, yasashi ito.
人
Ito.
優しい人
Yasashi hito. It's so aggressive.
人
Ito. Ito.
人
Okay. And then we have to rehearse all of these.
人
Okay, so yasashi hito. What was this?
人
Person. A nice person. This is kakoi, right?
かっこいい学生
Kakoi gatse.
学生
Gatse, right? Ga
く、
ku se gakusei. Mitsu, Gohan, Isha,
学生
Gakusei,
かっこいい人
Kakoi ito. 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 Kakoi hito. Cool. Wait. Cool person. Oh, right. I don't have to use all these. Just all the other props that ended up using these by coincidence.
人
Hito.
人
Sensei.
先生
Kakoi.
かっこいい
Student. Gakusei.
学生
Gakusei. And then Yasashi.
優しい学生です
Yasashi. Yasashi Gakusei desu. Yeah.
優しい
Shi. I. So. Gakusei desu. Oh wait, actually, she's a nice student. I do have a PhD, yes. Yeah. My PhD is in biology. Hello there, Toby. May you offer an advice on the pronunciation of extended vowels like those in gakusei? No, not really. Oh, again, ear training, pronouncing, it comes with practice. You're really so here's I'm gonna respectfully Turnus. So respectfully Turnus, your advice comes from practice. So for example, like you can, when you're offering advice, you're making the assumption that a person who is practicing is already competent enough with enough practice to take your advice. So if I've only done this for like 30 minutes on these words, offering advice that goes beyond the practice is jumping ahead. So for example, if say I have a PhD in biology, I wouldn't jump to the complexity of virology and RNA viruses immediately without forming the foundation of practice beforehand. So sorry, I don't really want your advice on the pronunciation of extended vowels yet. Perhaps in the future I would like that. At the moment, I still have to perform the oral training and my manipulation of the oral vowels to begin with. So if you give advice that overly complicates doing the thing, this is why Duolingo succeeds and formal education or whatever you're using to learn Japanese fails. It's one of the major criticisms that I do not prefer from traditional education, when you're offering complex advice to overcomplicate things. I was just gonna say each character gets voiced. What I'm doing right now is I'm basically just imitating what I hear. So if it's off, if it's not, it comes with practice. So primarily I train by imitation first and then develop the nuances. I'm only saying this because it's worth the investment. I actually really like how helpful you are, as in how forward and direct you like. It's pretty clear that you enjoy watching people learn about the Japanese language. Actually, I'm kind of curious. Is Japanese your second language or your first language? Or did you learn 2 languages simultaneously? English is my first language. English is my first learned language. My first spoken language is Mandarin. But it's not Mandarin proper, it's a dialect of Mandarin. And my second learned language is Spanish. So just to give you a background of stuff. And my Japanese exposure is I have a lot of Japanese ear training. But yes. And my English is incredibly, like, it's not, without saying too much, I leverage my English a lot. So even maybe if I struggle with vowels and stuff, that'll probably come with time or how I'm doing it. But it's kind of very difficult to explain or be able to observe someone for like a couple minutes and be able to offer advice that will help them in the long run. So he's a lawyer. So now we gotta review, right? It's Bengoshi, right? Bengoshi.
弁護士
Bengoshi
です
desu.
優しいです
Yeah, okay. Yasashi desu.
や
Ya, yasashi
で
desu.
す
Wait, oh.
I.
Yasashi
す
desu.
です
Yasashi. So yasashi.
優しい
Student. Gakusei.
学生
Gakusei. Gakusei. Doctor. Also, by the way, why do you feel like you have a PhD in being a failure? Study for your whole life. What were you studying? You can only be a failure if you felt like you failed yourself. Unless there's someone unless you're being neglected or something. What do you mean by studying being a failure? Tell me, what are the skills involved in being a failure? If you honestly, you can succeed at failing. I'm not trying to be like argumentative here, but one can be quite experienced at failing. Like, for example, let me turn the role around. If you study failure, you learn how to lose gracefully. You learn how to cope with the feeling of failure. There are many skills that are involved in studying being a failure. Unless you're talking about failing something you're studying, then that's kind of what I'm curious at. You're just joking, as a kid says, it's as the kid says, it's not that deep. Well, here's the thing, right, Jazzy? Here's the thing. I understand you were joking, and I'm kind of taking your joke and going deeper because it's more interesting that way. Unless you want me to just say, oh, well, that sucks, or haha, and then that's the end of it. I like to think that I'm trying to like make conversation, and you know, it's not that deep. What I'm saying is really not that deep either. However, jokes have meaning. You made a joke about failure, and I'm curious where that came from. You could have made other jokes, for sure. Again, not that deep. Anyway, why do I want to learn Japanese? Why not? It's not that deep. I will throw it back, you know, I'll throw it back. Why not? Why not learn Japanese? It's not that deep. Yeah, exactly. Why not learn Japanese? I mean, there will be a reason for Mandarin. There's no reason. There's not a really big reason for Japanese. I'll give you an objective reason, as in like it's not a subjective reason. The objective, the pragmatic reason is that I consume material that happen to feature Japanese language, and that's about it. Like, be it video games, movies, cinema, right? Visual novels involve the Japanese language. So objectively, that would be a great reason. Subjectively, I just like learning things. And Duolingo is very convenient. So here's a convenience that I don't necessarily think people think of when you're streaming stuff. Duolingo is free. And also, there isn't any restrictions on there aren't any restrictions that I can see on streaming Duolingo. So if you want to go deeper and ask me pragmatically and subjectively why Duolingo, also why Japanese, it's because Duolingo's earlier things, the most popular use of Duolingo is Japanese, and coincidentally I also consume a lot of Japanese things, and you can stream it. So that's kind of the thing. Like, when someone, I imagine this is gonna come up at some point. Someone's gonna come in and say, dude, Duolingo is trash. Like, I didn't learn anything from Duolingo. It makes things hard. Why don't you do this? And the answer, my pragmatic answer is, can you stream it? Like, for example, a competitor would be Babbel, right? And someone will say, well, they're both trash. It's like, do this. And I'm like, oh, you mean use your book? All right. Well, can I stream that? It's like, no, you have to pay for it. It's like, okay, well, let's contextualize this. I want to be able to stream it and use it as a tool for learning, not for learning language specifically. In this case, I'm learning a language, but playing video games also involve learning critical thinking and problem solving. So I want to stream Babbel, but I cannot stream Babbel on top of Duolingo. And things like, you know, brilliant.com, all those things. You can't do those things because they're monetized. It's a really fun language. I've had more fun with it than I've ever did learning Spanish. That's interesting. I enjoyed Spanish quite a lot because of my exposure to Spanish. I lived in a place where Spanish was useful. So, you used to stream handwriting the words in your Anki deck. That was kind of fun, but ultimately I felt that it wasn't the best use of your time. That's fair. What do you do now as opposed to that? It seems Pavel doesn't have a Japanese course. Anki's pretty amazing. Interesting. I'll have to try to do that in the future. Maybe I'll try writing Anki that on an Anki deck. That sounds interesting. You still do Anki and other resources. I just don't handwrite everything. Okay. A lot of your vocabulary was learned using Anki, I see. And without handwriting, I kind of felt like it wasn't much of a stream, so I stopped. Oh, I see. That makes sense. I mean, so the best way... So let me say a little bit. I know you're not asking for this, but whenever someone uses, I'll give you one of my thoughts about something. Whenever you say it wasn't the best use of your time, it kind of tells me that you have a personality that likes to be a maximalist as opposed to being efficient. So oftentimes, I hope you're really happy with what you're doing and that you find reward in what you're doing, because aiming for the best things aren't necessarily will be the consistently most rewarding and better things. Yeah, I remember watching Jazzy's stream and thinking, how does this person know how to write so many characters? Yo, that's pretty cool. I do I'll keep that in mind. Actually, I kind of would like to use my hand every once in a while, right? So I do drawings a lot of times, and I'm like getting the whole handwriting thing in. I was gonna do, so yesterday I noticed that they have a guidebook. I was gonna actually pick up a book, like a notebook, a notepad, so I can write notes. But instead, I'm just gonna push that off and find a way to integrate. So my take on this was I was gonna take an art program. I'd done this before on stream, where I take the art program, I make the canvas green, and I chroma out the canvas, like with any art program. I use Krita, by the way, for drawing and stuff. So I overlay it, match the dimensions, and I write on top of the stream. So that's what I did. And I was thinking of doing that in the future. So basically, I could write on the display. It's a little bit difficult on my end because I will be looking at Krita, like the art program, but I won't be looking at the actual like interface of like Duolingo or something like that. But I've done that before where I would be practicing on the actual thing. So on stream, it will look like I'm writing directly onto the browser or whatever I'm looking at. However, it's a little cumbersome the way I've done it. If there was a program, I imagine there might be a plugin or something somewhere where it allows me to use my pen tablet to write on top of any captured surface. That would be pretty great. All I mean was I would like to handwrite more in the future because it is rewarding and fun and cool, but having conversation and consuming content more easily is more rewarding, and I wanted to focus on that first. Okay. I'll probably come back to handwriting eventually, maybe in the far future. Brush calligraphy, that's pretty niche and cool. Yeah, like a whiteboard app. Yes. I cannot read that. Sorry. But thank you for whatever that means. Because this is day 2. Again, it's the whole desensitization and failure. Like what I'm seeing right now is a really new experience in a different, like, it's a new context for a very old experience, which is the context of, from 1 year ago, every day you studied Japanese. Thanks for the translation. So right now, this is a lot of fun for me because this is my opportunity to spend time on understanding that when you learn language or when you learn a skill, it doesn't improve your communication skills. This is what I mean. So if you're wondering why I stream things like for learning and stuff, my favorite things to focus on is life skills. 2 of the pillars of life skills I like to talk about is how to learn and how to communicate. So when this stuff happens, I don't think I'm gonna end up learning Japanese per se, but it's a great platform to understand how to practice giving advice, instructing and educating people, and also communicating in a manner that makes it less awkward, right? Less disconnected. I was gonna say I just recently was in my position, so you have any questions, feel free to ask. Fair enough. That's excellent. The rest is you ask question. I'm not familiar with. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Is that what that all says? So the first phrase is, I can see the apostrophe. So the first phrase is from 1 year ago, every day I studied Japanese, and then it was something like, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or something like that, right? So here's the thing. Hey, Xena. Dragon Lord Lotus, I really appreciate the kind words, but you are not in my position. Like, I don't, not quite sure if either you or Turnus know what my position is. It's overwhelming in not the way that you might be thinking. Yeah, welcome back, Xena. From YouTube. Welcome back, Xena. Just for the record, guys, like, if you were in my position, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Oh no. You don't have to apologize either. Now I'm just sounding like contrarian. I actually think it's pretty dang awesome that you guys just like helping people with Japanese. I actually think it's what's the best word I could use? It's super endearing. Like, I don't know, how old are you guys, by the way? Oh, sorry, Xena. I am also speaking with Turnus and Dragon Lord Lotus from Twitch. 27? You're in your 30s? Oh, interesting. Very interesting. If it's not too personal, may I ask what your professional backgrounds are? Learning language kind of narrows the professional backgrounds, but it's not discreet enough to really know where you guys are coming from. Both of you are programmers, and Jazzy, you're a cook. Dang. Language is amazing. Like, so here's the thing, right? I'm usually playing video games. And video games is a stronger pre-selection have stronger pre-selection factors than learning a language, and this is pretty awesome. Where although I do have to admit, the video game people are also aspiring programmers. However, it's kind of cool that you have different personalities when you're doing language learning, as opposed to like doing artwork or gaming, right? And we have, by the way, we have Zena from YouTube. That's a web designer or a web developer. Sorry, web developer. Fun. Okay, and just as a background, I no longer am part of academic science, but 4 or 5 years ago, 5-ish years ago, I have a PhD in biology, specifically in virology, right? So I am used to having interaction in an academic environment. However, when I stream, I don't behave like that. Most of my experiences is in like public speaking and communication. So like focusing on explaining difficult things or maybe nuanced things to people who are not familiar with the topic. So yeah, don't worry about overwhelming me. It's actually kind of interesting how you guys communicate, especially programmers. Did I minor in psychoanalyses? That's kind of funny. I know you're joking with, or kind of slightly joking, but generally speaking, when you focus on trying to teach someone something, it might end up sounding like psychology. Like what I mean is, like, if your goal professionally is to teach someone, you end up sounding like you're psychoanalyzing. If you want to maximize being helpful to someone, you end up kind of going down that road of, you know, psychology and whatnot. Because if your goal is to get someone to learn something, you're going to need those tools. But generally speaking, my only focus is learning and communication. Like interpersonal communication. Totally agree. One of the interesting things about learning Japanese to me is understanding more about communication and learning themselves. Yeah. Xena, I don't practice medicine, unfortunately. It's kind of a humorous thing about medicine in I don't know, you guys probably noticed that I'm Asian, right? To some extent. But I speak American English, so I'm Asian American. And I'm Chinese, and my parents really wanted me to be a medical doctor. My parents really wanted to be me a medical doctor, but I did research, so I was a scientist, a research scientist. So largely conceptual stuff, model organisms, no human things. And I'm gonna give you a very short take of this. The reason why I did not pursue medicine is going back to Jazzy's studying failure thing. I found that after volunteering and being around medicine, I could not stand up to dealing with failing people who are ill. So instead, I went into science to just study things about it. So I did virology, but largely it was coming from my interest in like human diseases, right? So no medicine for me, but I don't do that anymore either. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to it. It was a fun time. It was a fun 7 years of graduate school. And when I mean fun, in retrospect, it was fun. At the time, it was pretty grueling. I had ups and downs in my mental health and whatnot. Yeah, hopefully, so language, just a little bit about the whole language helps with communication and learning themselves. Yeah, so a lot of times language helps intra-communication. So what I mean is when you're learning a language, it really teaches you a lot about how you learn mechanically and intuitively. And then you also have the ability to intellectually do more complex learning, as in you learn maybe there are certain things, certain associations that maximize your ability to learn for language learning, right? And then for the communication thing, the mechanical act of exchanging words in a different context is very impressive. You learn a lot about that. One part that the mechanical act of learning a language does often sidelines is emotional intelligence. So when it comes with science too. When you're a scientist or you're in a specialized field like programming, it's actually programming is very nice that it's coincidental that it's programming. Oftentimes those are very mechanical, objective disciplines like science, like myself. When you go to a university and you have someone like teach you science, those people have spent a lot of time on objective, pragmatic communication and learning practices. However, that also leaves very little time for the development of emotional intelligence. And that's where the field of psychology typically comes in. When you get someone to learn something, pragmatism and specialization on like mechanical practices can be detrimental to someone's emotional intelligence to be consistent and enthusiastic and motivating, like motivation. So that's kind of some of the core topics I talked about before starting Duolingo yesterday. In order to be an effective teacher, as opposed to a specialist who offers advice, specialist being someone who has a higher level of mastery in the mechanics of particular skills, one must develop enough emotional intelligence to be able to make yourself appear mentoring to the person. So oftentimes that's always a balancing act. The more and more you learn about something, the farther and farther the distance from someone who's starting and where you are. So oftentimes to become an effective teacher and remain an effective teacher, one has to sacrifice a lot of that time, right? Some of that time while you could be improving and mastering your craft to practicing all the techniques that are required to maintain emotional intelligence. Intellectual intelligence is off the charts. I imagine Xena, Lotus, Ernest, Jazzy, you guys have a lot of incredible intellectual intelligence, as in specialty and lots of knowledge of the stuff you love and find fun. That comes at a cost of not practicing how to approach figuring out how the person feels that you're advising and projecting your specialty onto someone. Like, don't get me wrong, it comes off as incredibly passionate, and I love it. I actually quite enjoy how aggressively helpful you guys are trying to be. That's why I kind of enjoy being online and seeing people be passionate about their things. I don't think most people want to be teachers naturally. Jazzy, no. I'm talking about, like, I'm trying to acknowledge that everyone's in the room, right? So no worries. But I feel like you have a different passion. So your passion is to lighten the mood and create casual conversation, which is great, for sure. I knew you were joking, but it's kind of funny that you didn't contribute to my increasing deep dive into your joke, for example, right? Like, and that's kind of, that onerous is on me. I kind of wanted to push your joke to something else, and that fell flat, obviously. So that's kind of the thing about communication. That's communicating with emotional intelligence, right? So when I was in school, when I was doing PhD work, right, the thing that separated me over time from other educators is that I was engaging. So that's what Duolingo is trying to do. That's what apps and video games are trying to do. They're trying to engage the person. So yes, it wouldn't be the best pragmatic practice, right? Like, not the optimized pragmatic way of accelerating semantics and proper habit formation and whatnot. However, the way they went about it are designs that promote habit formation in the first place. So what the heck is Bunpro? N2? N4? What the? You guys are gonna have to explain that. Oh yeah, and yeah, Xena, my by the way, I just go by MAKU, but that's also an alias. But yeah, I put the PhD at the end just because the name was taken. just for clarity's sake, Xena. The only reason I placed that at the end is because I couldn't get MAKU, just the alias that I want, right? Because everyone doesn't have nicknames. MAKU, the JLPT Japanese language proficiency test, uses N1 as a measure of someone's ability. Oh, well, that's interesting. I had to do a bunch of digging, but it turns out that example was correct. Blah blah is, I can't read that, is correct. The thing is only when you use the honorific passive plus that. Oh my gosh, that's so Jazzy, listen, you're not one of those people, but you clearly know a lot about Japanese. So a lot of Japanese learning are lumped into various. Oh, I see. I don't know if you know. He was like, Japanese people can't even use this correctly most of the time. Interesting. I kind of get the subtext of what you guys are talking about, but wow, what are those circle things? Yeah, Xena. I'm surprised you got a name like Xena. Was that your original name without like adding numbers and stuff? Circle things are like underscores. Oh, excellent. Wow. I kind of dig it. Oh, that's good, Xena. Lucky, Xena. Lucky. They're just circles. If you type the word for circle, it's an option in the IME. Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind. So in the future, I'm not gonna go oh when I read it. Okay. So underscore. For context, Jazzy was studying the sentence. Okay. I see. Oh, the sentence above, which translates. Okay. The dentist will arrive at 3 o'clock. Interesting. I have a feeling I'm just not gonna learn Japanese, and we're just gonna talk about the idea of learning Japanese. And I'm all for that. It was a question about Keigo, which is the ultra polite business Japanese. You will probably never have to worry about it. That's interesting. What makes you think I'll never probably worry about it? Does it never occur in like media? Or do they never use that in like creative writing? Like say you have like a business scene and they don't use ultra polite business Japanese in it? Oh, okay. So it's not even used in the portrayal of business people in fictional work. In my experience, okay, a lot of media, the characters are friends with each other, so they use less polite. Interesting. So you're telling me that even if I watch like old traditional cinema, they wouldn't portray Japanese businessmen using ultra polite Japanese. I see. Well, you have to learn some of it for comprehension, but you won't need to learn a sort of grammatical nuance. That's fair. Or any kind of job, service job. That's fair. So, here's just to give you an idea of what I'm thinking in my mind. Like, for example, when you guys watch English stuff, right? We're all pretty competent in English. I absolutely love it when the stereotypical scientist, right, in an English production uses the vocabulary, the type of sentence structure that would be indicative of someone who's in the scientific field. And yes, it's rare, but very specific, like sweaty creative writing goes there. And I'm kind of curious if I have encountered ultra polite business, but I would never know because I can't tell you. I don't know Japanese enough to really know. But I'd be curious if like a really sweaty Japanese production of a business, of like doing business in Japan, would have that kind of stuff. And it would be fun trivia for other people. Not that my goal is to learn any of that. Yeah, I'm familiar with at least them being friends and using the familiar terms and stuff. Will you have or any kind of search up? Most of the time the normal polite language is enough and you don't need that ultra. Yeah, I can see that. In scenes involving a restaurant employee and one of the characters, it would be normal for the restaurant employee to humble themselves and use very polite speech. That's understandable. There are some easy ways to tell if speech is polite. I can imagine. I'll worry about that later. You've probably heard it if you know how when you enter a room they say, oh yes, yes. That's, oh, I see. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. Oh, then at least that example, the very example you gave, the irashaimase, that term, we're gonna need time for that term, but I'll be saying everything very, very slowly, obviously. But yeah, extreme probably a lot longer. It needs to be in words like gozaimasu. Yeah, like it's pizza would normally be pizza des, but it's pizza de gozaimasu. Yes. It's kind of like a British person. Oh, so here's a deep cut, guys. Here's a deep cut. I've heard it a lot, and I'll tell you, it's the weirdest place. Hear me out. Hearing out about the ultra polite speak. I like watching British people travel around the world. Okay? Bear with me. And oftentimes, when British people end up traveling to Japan, they use the ultra polite version of all the common phrases. So I've heard that a lot, actually. Even though, like, you know, like they're really just learning phrases and all that stuff, they actually do use ultra polite versions all the time. And I was always curious about that, and now I kind of have my answer. That's kind of cool. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Anyways, you guys chat among yourself. I feel like you guys can talk endlessly about these things, which makes me want to just listen to you guys talk the whole time. Duolingo teaches polite speech first. Oh, interesting. Xena, I can't read that either. It's appropriate for most situations. Fair enough. Fair enough. English. Now that I think about it, let's relate it back to English. How would I go about that? Yeah, that's so interesting because English. So here's the thing, right? The way you guys are speaking now is, I would say, all of you are very old people. Sorry, the way you guys are typing and talking and conversing is evidence of being in a professional background. I know Jazzy said cook, but it strikes at me that you've been in a professional background. No, they're not boomers. They're like edge millennials like me. Just they're more at the beginning of Z ish, millennial to Z, and it's not how old they are, but more their experience with a professional background. Because the way you guys talk is or type is, with the English you guys have, it makes it very comforting because like it doesn't feel like anyone's just gonna yell at each other suddenly, if you know what I mean, or like type very emotionally charged things. The way you guys converse is incredibly, for lack of a better word, polite. So what I would characterize right now, the way you guys are conversing, is legitimately the normal, polite way that Japanese people talk to each other, in my opinion. I don't know you very well. I'm just talking about your English, your use of English. Obviously, I don't know you as a person, but the terms and the way you phrase right now, although your emote makes you a lot less than the others. Yeah, like Jazzy, you are a lot less than, say, Turnus, for sure. For sure. Obviously, because you've already made a joke. You use things like hyperbolic phrases, like studying to fail, right? So hyperbolic phrases, that kind of thing. A jokester, if you will. Fair enough. And that creates casualness and informal, so more grounded. But Turnus definitely strikes me as someone along the polite spectrum. And then we have like the super polite spectrum, which is I respect you. That's a great opinion. That's an excellent opinion. May I elaborate on the idea that you've so generously given, right? So, and when I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking of when you guys are talking about like Japanese, the ultra polite Japanese and whatnot. I've been in a few situations like that, but rarely does it come up in English. I have no idea how to be polite besides please and thank you. When you say things like it's appropriate for most situations and it won't cause offense, that's polite speak. It's very dry, executed, explicit words. So being casual would be something like, trust me, bro. Like, you know what I mean. You know. Wink, wink. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Is the sky blue? Like, we're all on the same page, right? So it doesn't say anything. It doesn't explain anything, right? That's the ultra casual speak where there's too much. There's a lot of subtext and implicit nature. Like Jazzy, I'm on to you. You know exactly what I mean, don't you? Right? That's like the ultra familiar casual speak in English that I am really used to when you're talking about video games. Like when you're playing video games, that is the most casual, friendly approach. But then it's used for strangers, as in like when you're in a different community, like the gaming community, right? The casual speak is first between strangers. Like, yo, that thing is garbage, man. Why don't you just, get good, right? Like how, where? Can you be a little bit more descript? That's kind of the casual speak, but you're on a higher spectrum than that. Those sort of level of politeness don't really exist in the same way in English. I would say I disagree. They exist differently, but there are different levels of politeness in English. I think you're, in my opinion, equating the relationship between modifying words the way Japanese do. I agree. You do not modify English words like you do in Japanese. Mechanically, they don't exist in each language, but there is at least there's a even more granular. It's not even stepwise. Like in Japanese, you're giving me the impression that there are stepwise tiers of politeness. In English, it's like a smooth curve going up. You can actually say a lot of things without ever introducing any of your opinions. That's ultra politeness. So I can constantly compliment you and be respectful to your opinions and expound on your opinions without knowing anything that I've said. Because I wouldn't contribute anything. That's ultra politeness. You're being incredibly one-sidedly polite without ever volunteering your opinions. That's being the safest possible because you're being polite. You don't ever want to share your own opinions or project any of your own opinions. And the level of that deals with the overall vocabulary and tone of your diction in English. So I kind of disagree with the politeness levels don't exist in English. It actually exists quite a lot. Most people, though, don't use English that way, just like Japanese. Most people don't speak. They usually just speak between your respectfulness, mutual respect, and your casual colloquials. Excuse me, sir. Your screen hasn't changed for the past 30 minutes. Should I do 911 for assistance? Thanks, Zena. Yeah, this is what I do. I don't... Like, when I play video games, it's the same thing. Like, when we get digression, we just don't get a lot of done. But it's related to learning Japanese, so it's totally relevant, right? If I keep doing Duolingo, you'll probably run into Tado eventually. He's a grammar nerd. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Ultra polite Japanese does give off that vibe. It really does, actually. I quite like it. Like, even the mannerisms, when people... it's like extra. I kind of like it. It's very homey. It's like trying really, really hard to be agreeable. You always type like this as if it were a business email. Okay. That shift key on my keyboard, it seems so far away. I don't know if I can reach it with your little fingers. I sincerely request that you bestow upon me a pizza. Respectfully, right? May I inquire, access to a pizza, if appropriate, or if possible, perhaps at your leisure. No one I know talks like that, though. One person I know might even say, "Give me pizza or else." Yeah, I see all the different... Wow, they get really long, man. Yeah, just pizza me. Like, so here's the thing, right? When you ask an incredibly polite person in English, the sentence is incredibly verbose, right? So English also extends dramatically. Like, I want a pizza. may I have a pizza? Please, may I have a pizza? If you don't mind, please, may I have a pizza? Like, it just keeps getting longer. Like, the longer it gets, the more like conditions you place in to be more agreeable. Like, if it is available, may I please have a pizza? It just keeps going. Like, the more the English sentences just get incredibly verbose. So the reason why I say this is I watch a lot of British television, and sometimes you can just pick out the mannerisms of where they are and how formal and not formal, right? Polite, formal they are, just by how long it takes for them to express one phrase. And boy, do I have to tell you, when I'm writing scientific articles, I had to try so hard to not make the sentence sound like they're like 50 words long. Like, it would have a conditional clause with some participle phrases modifying two independent clauses with a semicolon that adds another condition at the end, and it'd be like this independent clause. It'd be like this triple independent clause with two, like, you know, participle phrases modifying everything. And all you could just say something like, I think this is what it is. My least favorite way order is I need a. I always have to stop myself from being like, oh, you need it, you need it, you need it, or you need what? Yeah, true. So here's another one for polite speak. The unnecessary extension in English on ors and ands. Like, for example, I don't know if Japanese do this. Like, oh, if like, you may or may not like this. I would may I offer an advice? This may or may not help you, instead of just saying this may help. So it just extends the phrase, like, oh, this, it could be this and that, or neither. So that's like polite speak in my opinion when it comes to English. It's extra verbose so that you're encompassing all the possibilities, yet you're really, and then like a casual person would come up and say, you're just telling me that it's a chance. Like, it's a chance it's gonna happen. Why not just say that kind of thing, right? Anyways, we're gonna I gotta finish at least 3 lessons. So speak amongst yourself. I was told it was weird to order food in Japanese using, I don't, we're gonna have to talk about that in the future. This is great. I love it. Talking about languages. Let's see if I retained any of this. Okay. Isha,
医者
Ito,
人
Ito, Kakoi, a cool person. Kakoi,
か
Ito,
っこいい人
Kakoi, Ito. I'm just gonna exaggerate these syllables for the time being.
学生です
学生です.
が
く
く
くせいですかっこいい
かっこいい
かっこいい先生
先生
先生 nice 優しい
優しい
医者
医者
and 弁護士弁護士 We're never gonna get this done. Our curiosity is interesting. Man. I wish I could participate. Don't worry. Give me like 2 years. I might be able to participate in those conversations. 2 years is not that long. You know? Give me 2 years.
優しい医者と優しい先生。
優しい医者と優しい先生。優しいと、oh wait. 優しい、oh no. 優しい
医者。
医者。
医者。優しい。
Oh my gosh.
優しい医者と優しい先生。
優しいと優しい先生。Oh. Oh. So this is like a compound list. That's cool. So yasashi, right, is okay. So we have implied articles too. So nice. Isha. So implied. Yasashi. Oh, okay. So
優しい。
you say, oh, okay. Interesting. I'm curious if and a nice teacher, but I'm kind of curious what I would do in English. Would I say a nice doctor and teacher? That would imply that that's one person. Yeah, so I would say a nice teacher and a nice doctor and a nice teacher, implying two individual nice people. Yeah. The customer is always right. Stereotype.
Kakkoi bengoshi to yasashii isha.
Kakoi. Wait.
Kakkoi bengoshi to yasashii isha.
Kakoi.
Kakkoi
Bengoshi.
bengoshi
To.
かっこいい弁護士と優しい医者
Yasashi.
優しい医者
Okay.
優しい弁護士とかっこいい先生。優しい弁護士とかっこいい先生。
Yasashi Bengoshi to Kakoi sensei.
優しい弁護士とかっこいい先生。
I can't even say it at the same time I'm listening at the moment. Yasashi Bengoshi to Kakoi sensei. Okay. Nice. Yasashi Bengoshi to Kakoi. Oh. Kakoi sensei.
かっこいい人です。
Kakoi desu.
かっこいい人です。
Oh, kakoi desu.
かです。
Oops.
かっこいい人です。
Oh, wait.
かっこいい人です。かっこいい人です。
Kakoi Kakoi. Oh, hito desu. Oh my gosh. I totally could not hear the hito.
かっこいい人です。
Hito desu. Oh my gosh.
優し
I
い
totally
です。
blanked that out. Okay. Yasashi desu. Yasashi desu. Man, that's a weird English phrase. He's nice. That contraction is he's nice. Fair enough.
優しい学生です。
Yes. What was that?
優しい学生です。
Yasashi got say this?
優しい学生です。
Yasashi
優しい
gakusei desu.
です。
弁護士と医者
Bengoshito. Bengoshito Isha. Bengoshito Isha. Okay. A lawyer and a doctor.
優しい人です。
Yasashi Ito desu? Ito? Is this the same one?
優しい人です。
Ito desu.
優しい人です。
かっこいい人です。
Kakoi hito desu.
かっこいい人です。
Okay. For the next 15 minutes. Alright, I can't be distracted for the next 15 minutes. Again. Nah. Oh no. I'll buy in. Let's go. Cute little bird. Very cute. Does this bird have a name?
優しい人。
Yasashi hito.
優しい人。優しい人。
Bengoshi?
弁護士。
No. That's lawyer. Gatsei.
学生。
Gatsei. Oh, the bird's name is Duo? Oh. Wait, is it? Oh,
先
that
生
makes
です。
sense.
先生です。
Sensei
先
desu.
生です。
She's a lawyer. I'm Bengoshi. Bengoshi desu.
弁護士です。
かっこいいです。
Kakoi desu.
かっこいいです。
She's nice. Yasashi desu.
優しいです。
かっこいい人。
Kakoi to ito.
かっこ人。
弁護士です。
Bengoshi desu. Bengoshi desu.
優しい弁護士とかっこいい先生。優しい弁護士とかっこいい先生。
Yasashi
Bengoshi.
Bengoshi to
かっこ
kakoi
いい
sensei?
先生。優しい弁護士とかっこいい先生。
She's a cool doctor. rar. かっこいい、かっこいい医者です。かっこいい医者です。
優しい医者と優しい先生。
Yes. 優しい人、
優しい
right?
人
Yeah.
と優しい医者と優しい先生。
優しい医者と優しい
先生。優しい医者と優しい先生。
Okay.
学生です。
学生です。Oh, she's a student. She's a student? She's a student. A cool student. かっこいい、学生で、かっこいい学生。学生、かっこいい学生。
優しい人です。
優しい人です。優しい人です。She's Wait, 優しい人です。Oh, a nice person.
優しい学生です。
優しい学生です。優しい学生です。If I say that 5 more times, no, I'm just kidding. A nice student. 学生 right?
優しいです。
優しいです。Oh, he's nice. He's nice. So indescript.
かっこいい医者。
かっこいい医者。Cool doctor. Hooray! Wasn't Yasashi this translate to he's nice earlier? It was. Yeah, so there's occasional, like, it's random. So, yeah. So you might get the same things too, since it's pulling from a pool. Another sense, yeah, because there's no context. Yeah, so she, he, and they didn't add the yet though. But yeah, they mentioned in the beginning that it's either or, so it goes back and forth. But they're not present at the same time. And that's kind of the way they're gonna do it, I suppose. Like both she and he are not presented as an option at the same time. So what are we at now? Ordering food again. Okay.
水、
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 水ください。
水ください。
お茶ください。
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 ください。水、寿司、
水、寿司。
お茶、ご飯。
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 寿司ください。
寿司ください。寿司 please. Ocha, sushi.
お茶、寿司。
She sounds so moody.
寿司
Sushi.
寿司
Ocha. Ocha. Gohan.
ご飯
Gohan. Sorry.
ご飯ください
Gohan. Kudasai.
ご飯ください
ご飯
Gohan. Sorry. I'm just having fun now. Now I'm having fun with like tone. Oh no, it's the moody girl again. It's like Gohan Kudasai. Just just like really lazy.
ご飯
Gohan
ください。
Kudasai.
お茶ください
Ocha Kudasai. Oh, I wasn't paying attention what she was saying. Ocha Kudasai. Ocha Kudasai. Wait, what did this kid sound like? Oh, I don't get a sample. I forgot what this kid sound like. Sushi.
寿司
Oh, okay. Sushi.
水
Mitsu. Mitsu. Ocha. Mitsu.
水。
I need more characters. Duolingo needs more characters. 5 p.m. on a Friday. Ooh, time to do other things. Good luck. Good luck. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the great conversation, by the way. I would love to hear. Here's the thing. I would love to hear an experience that you observed that you found interesting from someone else. I would love to hear your different observations about other people. I like the one observation you talked about regarding like the Roromaji. That's like really great information since I don't have time to observe other people. Thanks again for the pleasant company. The ultra polite pleasant company. Yeah, feel free.
ご飯とお茶ください
Gohan to ocha kudasai. Yeah. Gohan to ocha
くださ
kudasai.
い
Mitsu to gohan kudasai.
水
Mitsu
と
to gohan
ご飯ください。
kudasai.
お茶と水ください
Ocha to mitsu kudasai.
お茶
Ocha
と
to
水
mitsu
ください
kudasai.
お茶と水ください
Kudasai. Yep. Mitsu I ocha. I. Oh my gosh. I just mixed Spanish with Japanese. Whoops. Not now. Wife is just dying to get out of the house. Aw. Well, you have a great, pleasant trip, Ernest. I hope you hear this. That's cute. That's actually really cute. Yeah, you take out your wife. Yeah, you go and do some adventures with your wife. I just literally replaced do with e. Man, I can't wait to learn. I can't wait to see what Duolingo did with Spanish. Mitsu to ocha kudasai.
水
Mitsu to ocha
ください。
kudasai.
お茶と水
Ocha to mizu.
お茶水
Oh. I said the do and yeah, this is me rushing. I'm rushing now. Oh, of course you rub it in, right? No. 水
水
と
と
寿司
寿司
ください
ください。
お茶とご飯ください。
お茶とご飯ください
お茶とご飯ください。
ご飯とお茶。
ご飯とお茶 OK ご飯とお茶Rice and green tea, please. Oh, you know what? This is also worth mentioning from last time. Gohan, ocha, mitsu, and sushi. Oh man, when I can think of 4 things, I mean ramen would be ramen would be another, and they really nailed it though. I would totally use those words. At least in terms of like if you had to. So there's a rule of 7, right? This is like I don't know if this is still old or holds up in psychology, but there's a rule of 7. When you're introducing vocabulary, 7 is kind of like peak, and then I kind of just go off that a lot of times. Maybe sometimes I push past 7, but sticking with 4 or 5, that's pretty solid. So like if you picked 4 that deals with food, gohan, ocha, mitsu, and sushi would be fantastic. Maybe add 1 or 2 more, but that's great for a single session in terms of vocabulary. It might not seem like much, and I know how angsty and anxious people are, where they would learn like 40, 50 vocabulary words. I'm more in the line of language is life, so start with 5 to 7 every single day, and in a year, pretty good. And you form memories with those, so then you have an opportunity to use a smaller bank of vocabulary. A lot of times when I think about English classes back in the day, the formal English classes, it would go to the uppers like 20, 10, anywhere between like 10 to 20 vocabulary in a matter of 2 weeks, right? And that's well and good. But even I, as a kid who really enjoyed vocabulary, like the whole pragmatic, remembering the hard semantics, like the raw memory, right? The raw memory. I still, to this day, only retain like 70% of it. Most people don't retain like maybe 10 to 15% of vocabulary. Like for example, if I use the word perfunctory, that's a high school vocabulary word. Perfunctory, avarice, amenable, superfluous, pertinacious, austere. All those words, they're just gone. So it's one of those things like I would be very curious how successful the vocabulary is if they stuck with a more rudimentary way of doing it, like a more scaled down way, like 5 to 7 words kind of thing, instead of drilling 10 plus words a lot of times. And homework is like, it scales to that. So 10 plus definitions, 10 plus sentence construction. It almost feels like it's always anxious. And yeah, education is about learning and pushing some sort of boundaries. But is that education pragmatic to the point where when you graduate, are those things valuable, right? How valuable and applicable they are? And generally, the answer is no. It's a big resounding no. It's one of my favorite parts of English class, even though I don't speak English at home before. It's great. And I like that they kept to like 4 or 5 words in each lesson. And knowing that, I would keep to like maybe 2 to 3 sections each day, probably is the most appropriate. Because it's pushing past my limit, right? Or my limit that I understand how to explain. That works very efficiently. Not the best way, but the most emotionally efficient way. So, gohan to ocha. Why did I put kudasai?
水とお茶ください。
水とお茶ください。水
水
とお茶
お茶ください。
お茶とご飯。
お茶とご飯。お茶とご飯。お茶と水ください。
お茶と水ください。ご飯と寿司。
ご飯と寿司。I love that they hired a different voice actor, right? Different voice performance for all the cute. I hope their cast keeps expanding. That it's so cute. I love it. I wonder how much expense it is, but I would love to see like a cast of 100 plus. And I imagine they have like 5 or 6 people for every language and every topic and stuff. It's the extra. And it's free with the extra. That's so nice. Gohan to
と
水
水く
く
ださい。
ださい。
水とご飯ください。
水とご飯ください。He's so moody. 水とご飯 Oops. 水とご飯ください。
ご飯と寿司ください。
ご飯と寿司ください。ご飯と寿司ください。Oh, and this is nice where they're naturally doing the review. Even though I do the review manually myself, they introduce something new, step back, and then probably the next one is going back to the thing that's new. So I like the staggered format. The staggered format is fantastic.
お茶と水。
お茶と水。Oh yeah.
お茶と水。
Hooray! That's so cute. Oh, some people might not enjoy, like when you get really high, this type of, you start developing a sense of, I would say in a very respectful way, this type of snobbery. But man, for me, having these little flourishes here, it elevates the spirit. And it might not resonate with some people, but I would say they're in the vast minority when it comes to how these little flourishes can provide a very comfort space and elevating one's spirit, keeping one's spirit as high as possible when it comes to learning something definitely chips away at that barrier that will begin to rise as your sessions get longer. Yeah, that cute little guy.
お茶とご飯です。
お茶と
お茶と
ご飯です。
ご飯です。
Oh, so they're okay. Yeah, we haven't completed this section or this unit yet. ご飯です。
お茶と寿司です。
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 水とご飯
ご飯
です。
です。
ご飯です。
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 ご飯とお茶です。
です。
寿司とお茶です。
What? I just blanked out.
寿司とお茶です。
寿司とお茶です。
寿司とお茶です。寿司とお茶です。
Okay. Gohanと水です。
水です。
ご飯とお茶です。
ご飯とお茶です。
ご飯とお茶です。ご飯
とお茶です。
お茶と水です。
お茶と水です。お茶と水です。It's green tea and water. Wait. Oh. Wait. Did I just do the green water thing again? I did the green water thing. I think for some reason when I think of tea, I think of water. I might have just done that again. Sushi and water, please. Sushi to mitsu kudasai.
と水ください。
I really like this. She's so moody.
お茶です。
お茶です。Oops. It's green tea, not green water.
水と寿司です。
水と寿司です。水と寿司 oh yes. Oops. I totally screwed up. It's water and sushi. Sushi to水。
寿司と水。
お茶と水。
水
水です。
です。
です。Right. Hooray! That air guitar animation. And then we're gonna do what we did last time, where we're gonna work on kata or kana. We're gonna work on kana after 2 lessons. It's not imposed on here. I see that. So we're just gonna work on that too.
お茶と水。
お茶と水。
お茶と
水。
寿司とお茶です。
寿司とお茶です。Sushi and oh, it's sushi and green tea.
ご飯と寿司ください。
ご飯と寿司ください。
ご飯と
寿
寿司
司
くだ
くだ
さい。
さい。
寿司と水。
寿司と水。
ご飯と水ください。
ご飯と
ご飯
水。水くだ
く
さい。
ださい。ご飯と水ください。
寿司とご飯ください。
寿司と寿司とご飯ください。
水とお茶ください。
水とお茶ください。水と
寿司。
Oops. ご
ご
飯
飯ください。
ください。
水とお茶ください。
Oh wait. お茶。水とお茶く
ください。
ださい。
水とお茶ください。
水とご飯です。
水とご飯oh, yes. So it's water and rice. I need to say the English words when English prompts come up. It's rice and green tea. Gohan
ご飯と
to
お
ocha
茶で
desu.
す。
It's sushi and green tea. Sushi to ocha
お茶
desu. Rice and sushi, please. Gohan to
寿
sushi
司くだ
kudasai.
さい。
Water and ice. Mizu
水
to gohan
ご飯
desu.
です
Hooray! Oh boy. Sure, we still have gems, right? Gemmies! Cute animation. Green tea, please. Ocha
お茶く
kudasai.
ださい
Rice, please.
ご
Gohan
飯くださ
kudasai.
い。
It's rice. Gohan
ご飯
desu.
です
It's water and rice. Mizu
水
to
ご
gohan
飯で
desu.
す。
Rice, water. Gohan,
ご
gohan,
飯
mitsu,
水
rice and sushi. Gohan
ご飯
to
寿
sushi.
司
It's water and green tea.
水
Mitsu to
お
ocha
茶
desu.
です。
Water, green tea. Mitsu,
水、お
ocha.
茶、
It's green tea and water.
お茶
Ocha to mitsu
水
desu.
です。
Water and sushi. Mitsu to
と
sushi.
寿司
Water and rice, please. Mitsu
み
to
と
gohan kudasai.
ご飯ください。
Water, rice. Mitsu, gohan.
水ご飯
It's green tea and sushi.
ご
Gohan
飯と
to
寿
sushi
司
desu.
です。
Oh. Oh, green tea. Whoops. Rice and green tea, please. Gohan to
お
ocha
茶
kudasai.
ください
I'm rushing. Gohan.
ご飯
Gohan to ocha.
Ocha.
Green tea and rice. Ocha
Ocha.
to
と
gohan.
ご飯
Green tea and water, please. Ocha
Ocha.
to gohan.
ご飯
Oh, mitsu
水くだ
kudasai.
さい
It's green tea and sushi.
お茶
Ocha
と
to sushi
す
です
です。
and review, I guess. Okay. All right. So now, before we do this section, I think we're kind of over my attention span right now. It's weighing down at the moment. So now let's do characters. Hiragana. So yesterday, let me mentally imagine this. A, I, U, Ka, Ko, Sa, Shi, Su. Okay. All right. Hiragana 101. Okay, so what do we have? Check out these 4 characters, right? And then we can bring in. Okay. E,
え
mi, chi,
ち
wa.
わ
Okay. Oh, chi. Oh, yeah, yesterday. Konnichiwa. I mixed chi with sa. which is kind of like chi, but it's the mirror image with a little slant. Ooh, wa. Okay, wa. Me. Eh. I can't get these confused with anything I've known so far. So smile is eh me? Eh me. Eh me.
エミ、エ
Eh
ミ、
me. Yes. Alright.
ち
Chi. Okay. Chi.
わ
Wa. This way down, this way. Okay. Wa.
わ
Wa. Goes like down. This way.
わ
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna break out a little like whiteboard thing to the right and the left at some point.
ち
Chi.
ちえ
Eh. Like, eh. Sorry. This is how I remember things. You gotta make it fun, like extra fun. Eh. Eh.
え
Does it look like kind of an eh? I can what kind of image can I make out of eh to make eh? It kind of looks like a person running, really though.
わ
Wa.
わ
Eh.
え
And now I will forever associate it with a person running.
え
Eh.
えみ
Me. Okay, so me, what does this look like? Me, kinda looks like a speed bike with one wheel. I have to be a little bit more creative than that.
み
Me. Kinda looks like a fancy H, really.
み
Me.
み
Okay. Chi.
ちちち
Man, you really like chi. Me.
み
Fancy H.
いち
Ichi. Oh, hey, I know Ichi. E.
わ
Whoops. That's
Wa.
Wa. This is Chi. E.
Me.
Oh, no, me. This,
いい
yeah, this is from last time. E.
ち
Chi.
わ
Wa.
わ
U. U is like this.
う
U, right? Me, we just had, right? It's the fancy H.
み
Is the guy running.
え
Wa, this way, right?
わ
I'm actually making the motion of it. And then chi is I'm using a pen right now, so I'm actually moving my cursor and using my mind's eye on this space, this blank space here, to do it. Like wa is this.
え
E is me is me wa o e chi.
海、
What was that? Kimi?
海、
Oh, umi. Oh, hey, umi. That's a word I know too. Umi and yume. Umi is ocean, right? Umi. So umi is this. So this me. Me is this. So me. Okay. Hooray! We've added chi, mi, wa, and a. Where's a at? So a, mi, wa, chi. Okay. We did 5 last time, right? So we'll do 5 this time. Or until our hearts run out, I guess. Because this is going to be our last lesson, right? We're doing 3. Yeah, we're going to do 3 each day. It seems like my attention span is meh today, but I had a great discussion. Understandable.
す、
Suit. Oh, we're reviewing these. Suit is like sushi.
し、
Shi.
U.
U. Right.
こ、
Ko. Shisu. So she. She. Su.
しす、
Oh yeah, that's right. We also typed the romaji of the hiragana. So this is shisu.
牛、
Ushi. So ushi. So it's this.
し、
USA. Sorry. Usa. So sa is it's like oh no, I'm gonna need help with this. Let's see. Usa. This is koshi. This is koshi. Shisa. Oh wait. Shika. Yeah, this is shika. This is sushi. Oh, this is usa. So it's the mirror image of, slightly mirror image of chi. So it's this way. This is
うさ、
Shika. She. Okay.
鹿、
Shika. Kosu. Okay.
こす、
Sushi.
寿司、
Shiu. Is this, and then yeah. Okay. Kosu. Su.
こす、
That is... This is Su. It that Su? No. Is it? I think it's Satsu. Oh no, it's Usu. Oh yeah, this is U. Dang it.
寿司
Sushi.
す
She.
し
Right. So I'm getting U mixed up a little bit. So U is so Usu. Usu.
うす
Usu. She go. Go. Right. Go. She, okay. She go.
しこ
She go. Ushi.
牛
She u.
しう
Ishi. U, right? U, su.
うす
That's gotsu. Gotsu.
いす
Isu. E. E is this.
I.
Su.
いす
Oh yeah, isu.
す
Usu. U. Su. U. Su. This one.
うす
Sushi.
寿司
Ushi. Ushi is.
牛
Shisu. Shisu is. Right.
しす
And then Shika. Okay. Koshi. Koshi. So Shi. It's sushi, right?
Ushi.
Ushi. So u. Shi. So u. Shi. Susu. Susu. Right. Suu. I mean, Shiu. She. Ooh, okay. Shisu. Usa. U. Usa. Shiko. Okay. This is U. Oh yeah, this is the one that I missed. Usu. Oh, it's every 2 hours. Interesting. I guess we'll just keep going. 3 more. Let's try this 3 more times.
赤
Aka. Oh man, Aka is, yeah, Aka is like, and then ka. Okay. Shika. Shika.
鹿
This is Sai? Oh no. Oh no, is this is Sa this way? I think Chi is the other way, right? So Sai. Sai.
サイ
Sai. Aka. Man, Aka. Oh, is so laborious. Okay. Yeah.
赤
This is she got. She got
サイ
Sai. Sai is this way, right? Or oh, it's oh man. Sai and E Sa
I.
I Chika she got
イカ
oops. That's not what the one I'm looking for. She got sa sa is wait. Oh, usa.
ウサ
Ika is this
イカ
sasa
ササ
and aka
イカ
ika. Right. Okay. This dude, is ridiculous. Okay. This is got
傘
asa sa yeah. Sa i sa i
サイ
a
赤
aka which is not being able to see it is so like here a ga
か
ka sa which is this yeah
傘
ka
か
sa so this sa e
サイ
sasa
ササ
this is ika yes. Okay, now I think it's for me for these matching pairs I'm only gonna look at the right side and then go backwards as opposed to the other way around because I'm drawing a blinder here most of the time when I'm doing the other lessons, but in this one I think I like going this way and back. So they flipped the columns. I think that's more ideal in my opinion for myself.
赤
So aka a ga ka so ka Sa. Ka. Sa.
1、
Ichi. E. Chi. Chi is this way. Yeah. So E. Chi. Alright, now we're gonna look at this side. So this is Sa E. Sa. Asa. Aka. Yep. Okay. That was 3, right? Let's go for 2 more. I really love this part. This part is fantastic. It's to switch up with all the other English, like going both directions is so much fun. I think in the future we're gonna do this, like a lesson, then this, lesson, then this, lesson, like alternate, because it breaks up always going from one direction. So we'll do both directions, back and forth. So chi. Chi is, yeah.
Chi. Wa.
Wa is like down this way.
Wa.
Yep. A is, yep.
E. Mi.
Me. Me is the fancy H.
Mi.
I'm gonna start developing all of the associations, like a English association word with all the characters, all the sounds. So let's do like the same thing. Start on the right. So this is
Mi.
this is me. I read the left side. Okay, this is me. Sa.
Sa.
Chi.
E.
Wa.
Wa. Ichi.
Ichi. So now let's rely less on my hand movement. So ichi, that's E. Oh no. Chi. So
Chi.
okay.
Ue.
Ue. Okay. Kami. Hey, kami is another word that I'm familiar with. So, me. Oh no. Me. So, me.
Kami.
Kami.
Kawa.
Kawa. Ka. Again. Ka. Wa. Wa. Like.
Kawa.
Kawa. Oh, I can spell kawaii now. I can actually write kawaii. Wa. E. Oh, that's. Oh, this is getting good. Okay, let's go on the right side. So this is kawa, right? Which is this.
Kawa.
Kami.
Kami.
Umi.
Umi.
Ue.
Ue.
And then Ichi.
Ichi.
Umi.
Umi. So Umi is
U.
Ooh, fancy H.
み、み、
Ooh, fancy H.
うち、
Uchi. Right. Yeah. Michi. Michi is me is the fancy H, right? So fancy H. Chi is yeah. So
道、
Michi. Kind of like a game I play, Onomichi. Adding cute Michi at the end.
耳、
Mimi. Mimi is two fancy H's. Right? This. This. Right?
耳、
Mimi. Kind of reminds me of like me. Like when you're like warming up and stuff. Mimi. Okay. Let's do the right side again. So this is uchi. Right?
うち、
This is e e a ie.
家、
Ie. This is Mimi.
耳、
Michi.
道、
And then this is Chichi.
父、家、
Ie. Oh wait, is Ie like no? Or that might be a different word. Ie. So e was the running man. Yeah.
い、 え、
All right. Wa is down. So wa.
ち、
Chi. Chi is okay. So this is sa, mi, sa, chi, wa,
神、
kami. Mi. Mi. Chi, she. Chi is chi. Oh no, that's not chi. Chi is yeah. Chi is this. Chi, she is yeah. So chi, she.
うわ、
Uwa. Wa. Okay. Now let's do the right side again. Welcome back, Zeno. Kami. 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 Now this is uwa. Chi. This is she. Chi. And ue.
七、
Chichi. So Chichi is she. She is this, right? Chi. So she. Chichi. Cool. All right. And then we'll do one last one because the last time, right? The last time when we opened this door, It required 5 sessions. So we'll keep it to 5 sessions. And I think we're going to do in the future, well, let's just see what it looks like. So there are going to be 2 lessons, right? If we do 2 lessons, we'll place a hirakana session in between the 2 lessons. Because I do want to learn the characters in the reverse direction, right? And then when I'm doing the lessons in the regular map, I'm attaching romaji to the hirakana and the katakana at the same time. And then we're doing the reverse. And maybe we're gonna... Oh, you don't have lessons on these. Wait. Oh, these aren't open yet, right? So we're gonna try to work on the hirakana in between. What happens when you... Oh, okay. So you still have these 2. Ooh. That's exciting. All right. So let's... One more. Okay. So we got new sounds. New hirakana. Gana. Oh, it looks like every 4-ish. 4 or 5-ish. They introduce a new set of 4. Which is great. I think 4 is a good average. Although now we're doing 8. So 8 is probably my upper limit. I don't want to really go beyond 8. So 8 cluster words. So they are looking at 8 vocabulary and then 8 characters. I wouldn't pass 7 too much. It takes it's like diminished return because you have a really high chance passing 7. Rules of 7, right? So this will be as far as I can go. I don't want to be too inefficient by pushing myself too much. Ooh, this one, ki is like chi with 2 lines. Oh no, not chi, sa. Ki is sa with 2 lines. It's kind of funny.
Ki.
And I'll always remember ki that way now. This is what I mean by using English associations with like associations within associations. Like I can remember now when I see ki, I'll see sa as well. So I'll see sa with 2 lines being ki. And then is like a cutoff a. So a has like a dash up there and then a dash on top. So it's just a cut off. O O nothing's really close to it. The closest one is wa, right? Wa. This is where I'm using my art skills. So I recently, like 2 to 3 years ago, I started doing art and looking at form and line art and stuff, and how to like get my idea of line art and whatnot. And now I'm just connecting the lines to each other. So wa is like this, and O is and then ta. Ooh, ta is weird. Okay, ta is gonna take a while. Although ta looks like ta. So ta legitimately just looks like ta in English.
Ta.
Ta. Ooh, I don't know about top. Ta is actually an onomatopoeia in a pretty common adopted onomatopoeia, like ta for now kind of thing. So ta is it's okay. You don't need it. Don't need an English word. All right. So I'll remember ta pretty easily because it kind of looks like ta. O is kind of rough. Okay. All right. What is the example word you gave us? That's E Kiin. Kin. E. Kiin. Kiin.
金
Kin. Kiin. Ki. Kin. Alright, let's start. Oh. Ooh. So you can just loop around. So like, okay. Oh. Okay.
お
Okay. Would that just be like okay or okai? Okay. I'm sure there's a kitakana. There's like a word phonetics for that one, I suppose. No, okay works pretty well. Okay is close to okay. So do I have a K? No, I don't think I know a K yet. I know ka, so okai is the closest I can use with the phonetics I know now, like the hiragana I know. So ka e. That's the closest to okay I got. I don't know the letter for K yet, or the writing for K. Oh.
うん
That's a cutoff. A.
うん
O. Right.
お
O.
うんうんた
Ta.
た
Okay.
お
O. Gotta practice writing O.
お
Hmm.
うん
Which is a cursive. It's kind of like it's kind of like a looser cursive H. But
ta
yeah, ta is pretty
た
easy to remember.
き
Key, okay. So key. Oh, interesting. Oh, they're not connected. So it's kind of like a lopped off a lopped off sa. Oh, I wouldn't have drawn it that way. I would have done, if this was connected, I thought it would have been like down this way and then cross cross. That's like the English way, so now it's just cross cross. Interesting. I mean, not that it matters, because you can still produce the same shape through your own dexterity.
き
Key. Wait. Do I know a na? Oh no, I can't spell Okinawa. I can't do Okinawa yet. I don't know what ni is. O, right? We just learned O. O. Ki, right? Na. No, na. I don't know what na is yet. And then wa. Oh no. Yeah, I gotta see wa more often. We just learned wa today. This is where the eight limit thing is gonna be tough without context clues.
き
Key, key is right.
ききお
Oh. Oh. Every time it's like, oh, it's like, oh, I don't understand. I make the sound oh a lot when I mess up. It's this, right? Okay. This one.
お
Ta.
た3
Sun. Wait.
3
Excuse me?
3
Oh, my old one. Wait, san. Yeah, san. San. Which is 3, right? Each ni sun, right? Yeah, so it's sa.
さ
Sa.
うん
Sorry. I'm having a little fun with that sound.
うん
Okay, ta. Okay, so now we're doing the right side, right? Ta is
た
mm.
うん
Ki
き
a
あ
o
お
o is so complicated. It's like gotta practice all quite a bit.
き
Key is okay. Ta I ka o
秋
aki. Oh my gosh. Is such a pain too. Yeah, it's like this, whoop, a loop. So key is aki. Oh, that's just so much fun. I need a pad on the right so I can visually see it, but I usually my hands are pretty on point, so it's good enough for visualizing. A lot of times when I'm thinking of words, right, a lot of times people would say, you know, when you're doing English, if you're a native English speaker, you would imagine the word and you visualize it in your mind's eye, like your third eye, right? Your third eye, you look at it and you imagine it. But on top of that, in order to get your hands involved, you can also air write it. So if you incorporate your hand movements along with your visual movements and then say it out loud and then also read it, you are more likely to remember things than just doing one or two of those things. So that's what I'm doing right now. And it's nice to be able to write. So I definitely relate to what we had an earlier conversation about writing. Like, it's not as engaging without writing it and whatnot. I think Jazzy mentioned that. Pretty sure it was Jazzy mentioning about the whole handwriting is very engaging and whatnot. So I might add something for visual clarity, but generally removing it doesn't necessarily mean you need to see it, but it is good to see your motion. So right now I'm just using my cursor, using my mind's eye and imagining what the character is. So like what my strokes are going to look like. And honestly, for the most part, the reason why I kind of like Asian languages a lot of times is my natural inclination is to do very curved strokes like these. So when I draw, it's actually less alphabet-y, like it's less Germanic with like hard edges and stuff. It's a lot of separate strokes. So even like sa, for example, sa would be 2 strokes, right? I would actually do it as 3 strokes, and I would lift momentarily, and then imagine sa as 3 lines, right? So that's kind of why, in my opinion, yeah, you can't, if you don't like drawing, that's fine and whatnot. But drawing can be used in a way to make your hands more dexterous. So then it can apply to memory techniques, to seeing how you can write these characters. So occasionally I would be doing drawing stuff as well. But it really helps if you can trust your hand to like make certain shapes even without being able to see it. So like, for example, this is wa. Ah is like this. Oh wait, ah is right. Really, really fun stuff. I had so much fun. I would say I was only really learning, like using Duolingo for 2 hours because we had a really awesome conversation. So much. I did wanted to digress about communication skills and learning process versus there's a gigantic difference, in my opinion, for myself. A gigantic difference between teaching someone what you know and what you learn about a language versus learning the language itself and understanding how to use the language. Teaching is not the same thing as demonstrating, in my opinion. A lot of time, or teaching requires demonstrating in a sense of appropriateness for the demonstration. So like, if someone is just starting, giving them advanced advice it's a knowledge check. It's a semantic check. It's not a mechanical check. So it doesn't aid in the mechanics. I feel a lot of things that came from that conversation is a big emphasis on why I feel that nihilism grips lots of younger people, even older people. For example, when you are super passionate about something, you create a gigantic wall for someone to try to approach it. The idea of teaching is to lower that wall as much as possible. So oftentimes when I see someone struggling with something, the first inclination is to ask them, what is it that makes them struggle? And then revolve your advice around their current mindset and perception. Oftentimes, if you're experienced enough in focusing on emotional intelligence, you can observe someone for their emotional state of mind as opposed to their semantic knowledge. Like, for example, if someone is struggling to associate two ideas, right? Say, associate hiragana with a sound, telling them to do what worked for you or worked for other people will only add to what is already making the person struggle. The first inclination for a teacher is to ask, what is it? Can they express what is making it difficult? And you address that specific thing with your experience. So like, if a particular sound is catching them off guard, it isn't necessarily their ability to match hiragana with a character, but a very specific thing, a quirk that must be addressed in order to make everything else flow together, right? So as urgent and passionate as it is, a person must make mistakes. They must make mistakes, practice, and enunciate and learn in the process, encouraged by someone who already knows the content. As eager as you may be to want to be helpful and accelerate someone's learning process, that is, in my opinion, where a lot of internet hustle culture has conditioned people into teaching. The idea is, hey, you should have gotten this down now. Hey, you know what? Trust me, bro. If you do it this way, it won't work out later. As opposed to, this is a suggestion. I see literally this person doing the thing now and may be able to suggest something that may be an alternative for that person, as opposed to predicting what that person is going to be. It's like, if you use this now, you're going to fail later. That is the hustle culture. That is the unattached semantic approach. And when you do that, in my opinion, the vast majority of people will become nihilistic and give up before they even get to that point. So that's deterrence. That's like teaching someone who, if you taught someone without knowledge and they follow your advice and it doesn't work out, as a teacher, that is your fault, not the other person. So in my opinion, that's kind of one of the dangers of being zealous, overzealous, and offering advice way in advance. For myself, I'm going to do all those things already because that's what I naturally do. However, I would never remove and add advice for making errors. When you make errors, you actually are more prone to fix those errors, as opposed to removing the chance of making those errors in the first place and then struggling with knowing how to fix those errors later. So offering advice doesn't necessarily mean preventing someone from failure. If you don't know how to fail, you don't know how to fix failure. So in the grand scheme of the internet these days, when you're offering advice, you're getting advice from very, very skilled, passionate people, right? They have honed these things. They're telling you these things, so it's the best way to learn and whatnot. But it removes how to problem solve. And that is my hot take here. I don't think success is correlated with being the best in approach. Success is cultivated by efficiency and problem solving. So if you remove the act of learning how to solve problems, like, oh, you have a problem with associating sound with a character, removing that doesn't allow that person to learn how to do it in the first place. So just, it was a great conversation. I really love the people who are very passionate about Japanese language. However, I would say from my point of view, there are people who know a lot of Japanese and love it. I don't necessarily think practicing teaching is the objective here. And I'm generally the opposite. So it was super fun exchanging ideas and little perspectives on how language is learned. I'm pretty satisfied with Duolingo. The one thing that I feel Duolingo right now didn't show me, and I feel it would solve, or it would address, the potential problem that was raised by Turnus, the person that was in the chat earlier, is that for whatever reason, they stopped encouraging you to do these exercises, like the hirakana exercises, or even the katakana. I'm sure the katakana is going to come up. I actually think optionally I'm not going to be doing kanji, but maybe. I think I can think of a really fun way to do kanji, and kanji is when I'm going to draw things, so that's way down the line. But still, I'm sure katakana, hopefully somewhere along this track, they'll encourage you to look at katakana, but it only occurred once, so it's not like a feverish thing. So I could see why. Oh wait, maybe it's here actually. Yeah, it's not as regular. Maybe it's this door. I don't think it's frequent enough. However, that whole problem of relying on Romaji is that Romaji has become efficient enough, like intuitive enough, that it becomes a crutch. And I understand that for sure, right? Just as when you know a lot about something, it becomes your crutch too. So when you know a lot, like, I don't know, for example, spend 7+ years in a scientific field, that also becomes a crutch to teaching, because you have to reduce whatever it is that you're trying to teach someone to the level that they're emotionally ready for. Not, hey, just trust me, do this. To me, that's more of the Asian teaching style, in my opinion. And for myself, I'm in the United States, right? So, and people on the internet don't actually necessarily learn that way. I actually think Duolingo is fantastic. It's rudimentary. It's really redundant and repetitious, which slows things down meaningfully, in my opinion. So for me, when learning a life skill, and I include language as a life skill, it requires repetitious foundational work. So no matter how fast you want to go, foundations. It's repetitious, combinatorial. That will keep the person repetitiously doing it. Now, where this fails is they need to create a lot of emotional and motivational tools to make it feel rewarding enough to repetitiously do it. And I feel Duolingo has done somewhat of a decent job at proliferating all the things to it's a win-win, because it keeps the person doing these tasks and using their app, so spending time, and they're incentivized to try to keep the repetitious nature coming. I think it's a fallacy for people to want to move fast on a life skill. I haven't done anything like this, like, recorded manner where you're working on a life skill actively and not working on a semantic contextual based thing. Although I do have to admit that unlike most people, I treat language as a life skill as opposed to a semantic skill. And this is worth saying because programming, there are two predominant types of programmers that I encounter in my life. And one is a vast minority versus one that is a vast majority. And that is, programming language is not a life skill. It's a tool and an interface that is learned in isolation. So all your, say if you learn Python and then you learn Java or C++, right? Or perhaps like a graphic engine like Unity versus Unreal 5 or something. Oftentimes they're compartmentalized as opposed to associated with each other, right? And that's kind of what I don't usually do. Most of the time when you learn Java, there are ways to use Java's associations to learn Python, or vice versa. It's two different approaches, but generally speaking, when it comes to language, oftentimes people focus on what separates the languages as opposed to what brings the languages together. Like, they don't have to be literally associated with each other. When you create associations, you remember characters. So for example, is harder for me to remember because I can't associate anything with it in English other than the literal abstraction of the letter A. So Duolingo is doing well in the sense that Romaji is always attached to the hiragana. However, like the Roman characters you have more association with if you're an English speaker. So inherently, you'll pay more attention to this because you're relying on it. However, you can do the same for the characters because they're pictorial. So it's not the same as abstraction. You can use pictorial stuff. So I will never, like, it will be very difficult for me to forget what A is because A looks like a guy running to the right. So if I associate that with an English description, I can remember what it is. It's not necessarily the detriment of removing romaji from hiragana. It's not finding associations with the hiragana and versus the character. E, the letter E in English, has a lot of associated experience for an English speaker versus whatever this is. So to combat that, to emphasize that, you find other ways to look at that. So for example, I won't forget what chi is, even though I just learned Japanese, right? Like hiragana, chi is sa, with like cut off with two like lines across. And because I know they're associated, if I forget what chi is, I would know what sa is, and it will remind me of chi. So just lots of different types of strategies. That doesn't necessarily mean, I know this is a minority thing though, right? Like, I agree with that person that probably a vast majority of people, if they're, especially when they're older, if you get older, oftentimes it's the brute force method. The brute force is you cut it off, you literally restrict information to learn it. So it's kind of like how do you learn not to smoke cigarettes? You remove the cigarettes. As opposed to a different way is you associate what you gain from not smoking, and you associate it with what you know will happen if you keep smoking. Those things empower memory. It reinforces emotional intelligence, where like, you know, if you do this, you'll gain something and you'll continuously do it. You'll remember it. It becomes important. Cold turkey is brute forcing, and brute forcing works when you're not an adult. The older you get, the more you can leverage what I said in day one, intellectual leverage. Your experiences can empower your association and memory just as much as it can take away. So I wouldn't ever take away romaji. Romaji is there as a tool for me to remember the hiragana. But if you're a person who thinks romaji is a crutch and hiragana is the epitome, then of course you're going to think romaji is going to be a problem, because your focus is just that, just as a 2 cents thing, right? It was a really wonderful conversation, and we talked about like Japanese culture, the politeness, ultra politeness in language, and I find associations, in my opinion. It's easier to remember things when you find associations than finding differences. Although both is ideal, knowing the differences and the similarities. Drawing parallelisms, like juxtaposition, is comparing and contrast. It's not just compare when it's convenient to you and contrast when it's convenient to you. If you focus on what makes Japanese and English different, then they become different. If you focus on what associates them, they become similar. If you do both, now we're talking, right? Anyways, I absolutely love Duolingo, and I hope I have conversations like this every single day when I'm doing Duolingo. Duolingo to me isn't even a tool to learn language. It's a tool to talk about language. and then demonstrate learning process, and then interacting, exchanging ideas on how to offer advice and teaching, and then making language fun. Making new memories. Yeah, we're gonna switch gears now. So that I wanted to leave off on a bright, more encouraging note. Okay.